Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
You're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 61 with Doober.
61.
This is another fun one.
It was. And let me tell you, this has an incredible story wrapped in a story on how we got to this story. All right?
It really does. It really does. Begins with a young whippersnapper of 10 or 12 sitting at the heel of his dad and his Marine buddies from Vietnam reminiscing about the quote-unquote good old days while they were hunting pheasants on their family farm and listening to the stories of folks such as Lieutenant Studley Hungwell,
who didn't exist, but they created this aviator out of thin air, and everyone was looking for him.
They had wing and group personnel looking for this guy. Unbelievable.
He actually got a paycheck, which was kind of scary.
Right?
Oh, that was a great story. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So listen to that one. That was a lot of fun. But this Marine's dad came back from Vietnam, bought his own helicopters, including a Marine H-34, in which Doober, our guest today, had over 1,000 hours of flight time in before he ever darkened the doorsteps of Officer Candidate School.
Which is just unheard of.
Right?
Unheard of.
Yeah. So he kept his mouth shut, didn't tell anyone he had any helo time, and he got kind of found out anyway.
Yeah. How about before that, though? His dad would drop him off for baseball games in the helo. If they're running behind schedule, he'd be working with his dad, heavy lift, moving air conditioners on top of buildings and that sort of thing, and they drop him off at the game.
Get out of the helicopter, run over, and start catching the baseball.
Yeah. Crazy stories. He had the fortune to be in the same squadron that his dad and all his buddies flew in Vietnam.
Right, HMH 362, the Ugly Angels. Same squadron as Spice and Gunny and his dad. Amazing. That was kind of a special thing.
Great.
Then lastly, he went on to also be an HMX-1 pilot. What's special about that, Fig?
That's the white top helicopters that fly Marine One. Flies the president and all the other heads of state around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, they don't just let anybody who wanted to try out a helicopter one day to operate that. So, this is a pretty special guy. And one other important point, sponsors for this episode include cross promotions with the Pan Am podcast. And this episode is brought to you by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Get ready for a delicious and hassle-free cooking experience. HelloFresh is offering an incredible deal just for our listeners. Visit HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas16 to get 16 free meals and free shipping. Stay tuned for more details about HelloFresh during the show with Doober. Anyway, tell you what, why don't we listen to him tell us about it instead of us telling you about it? What do you think, Fig?
Let's get the hell out of the way.
Let's do it. I almost said don't sit on the collective. You got me doing it now.
Don't sit on it. How about just don't put, what is it? Don't pull on it? Don't push on it.
Don't let
go of it. Don't let go of the damn collective.
Don't do it.
On the tanker.
Here comes Doober.
Through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that. Thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly...
So there I was, sitting on the deck of the USS Bonhomme Richard, and my aircraft commander's getting ready to pull up on the collective during media day. Vulture's Row is covered with cameras, and we're going to do an FCF. And the minute that he's getting ready to pull up on the collective, for some reason I look down and see both of the dump switches are on. And if we would have broke the deck, guess what everybody would have seen? And then when we would have landed, dump switches would have remained on because the weight on wheel switch would have been bypassed, and we would have continued to dump fuel on the deck.
Oh, boy.
But you'd have landed sooner than anybody expected. Greetings, everyone. You're listening to the podcast. So there I was. This is episode 61. Repeat here, coming to you from Paris tonight with my co-host, Fig, and I think you made it back home.
I am. This is Fig from Kearney/Kansas City, Missouri. Not as sophisticated as Paris, but boy, am I glad we have with us a fellow Marine aviator. Welcome, Doober.
Glad to be here, guys.
That's awesome. Glad you could join us.
And that's a great way to start, too.
Really.
That's a great story. I want to hear how that ended.
I'll finish it. I'll finish it when you're ready.
There you go. No,
right,
rock into it, and then we'll back up to your early days.
So this was a fairly early day, but one of my overall, like my biggest mentors, we're testing media day, RIMPAC, out in Hawaii, and I have no idea why, but he's getting ready to pull collective, and I just happened to look down to the center console, and we both missed it. Both the switches were up, ready to dump fuel. And as soon as he starts pulling the collective, I smacked his hand with everything I had, and he looked at me like he was going to rip my fucking face off. and then he looks at me like, "What the hell, dude?" And I point at that, and he goes,
Yeah.
and then we immediately both
Turn ghost white.
were like, he lets the collective down nice and easy. We both take a breath. We then safe the switches and talk about how big of a shit show it would have been. Because we would have dumped fuel once we broke the deck. Then we would have landed. We would have shut the switches off because that's your instinct, right?
Right.
And then the weight on wheel switch would have overrid them, and we would have continued to dump fuel on the deck while all the cameras are on us. So
that would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Well, hey, nice catch, number one. I'm glad it didn't happen.
That's somebody looking out for you right there.
Oh, yeah.
Spidey sense.
Right? Oh,
Well,
man.
considering the fact that, I know already because I've got a little background on you that you have so much time in a helicopter. I would say you probably have a guardian angel or two because you're still here with us.
Yeah.
I think those things are, whirling death machines, personally.
It's 300 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal,
Beautiful.
So tell us how you got how did you get started in aviation, man? I mean, it's a really great story. So tell us.
Well, over my left shoulder, that man right there.
Okay, so the vast majority are not watching on our Rumble page, but that's okay. So there
Okay.
was.us/Rumble, but he's got a picture in the background of an H-34 that his dad owned. And that was the backbone of Marine Corps helicopter aviation in Vietnam years.
Yeah. My aviation, it started before I was born. My dad was an Iowa farm kid, went into the Marines during Vietnam, flew H-34s, 13 months in Vietnam. He got shot down 5 times, 29 air medals, Purple Heart.
Unbelievable.
I didn't know any different. We always had helicopters around because when he got home from Vietnam, he bought a couple of small utility helicopters, Bells, and sprayed crops. Did very well. Continued to purchase and buy helicopters. I think at his height, he had 2 Bell 47 G5s, like the Bubble Bell, you see on MASH.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had an H-34. He had a Cessna 206. He had a Jet Ranger. But I didn't know any better. We had him on the family farm in a big old hangar, fixing fence, castrating hogs, shearing sheep, and flying helicopters. That was normal.
So you started flying helicopters at a young age, right?
I did. It wasn't like I would just hop in it and go. It was always with Dad's tutelage. A lot of times he would hand me the controls when he was exhausted from doing what this picture that some people can see, some people can't. A lot of what we did was heavy lift work. So we would take air conditioners and put them on Walmarts, Kmart's, shopping malls. I mean, you think how huge some of these big flat warehouses are.
Yeah.
How big is the crane got to be? And how heavy does that crane have to be to reach the center of that building?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no quicker, faster, sometimes even safer way, because cranes are pretty damn dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
To go grab these.
Because
And
helicopters are so safe. Sorry, man.
I know that is fair.
Doober, listen, man, you got to understand we're a couple of numbskull single seat jet guys that we're the only guy. Helicopter guys, the only ones we could pick on.
I understand. All I
The
know is
F-18 guys picked on us because we're weird Harrier pilots, so we pick on the helicopter guys, right?
Yep. That's okay. Well, if we're breaking leather and we're allowed to My aircraft's not called a yard dart. Just saying.
Okay, fight's on. It's all good.
Fight's on.
It's all good.
Beautiful.
Anyway, so that's how I grew up. A lot of times I'd get my flight time because doing heavy lift work like that, where you're really having to concentrate, is exhausting. Meticulous flying. So I'd get my flight time usually on the way home. Dad would say, "All right, hey, we're IFR. You got it." I follow roads, and we'd fly down Highway 34 to 58, break a left at Ebert's Corner, or go over the top of whoever's farm, and I'd usually wake him up when I was really young. I'd wake him up about the time we were getting close, and he'd hear the engine RPM change anyway, so he automatically woke up.
Yeah,
and then he'd take us on in. So
wow, that's trust there, right? So were you rated at the time? Did you have your ticket?
Nope, I had nothing.
Okay, so you're flying in the left seat.
Did you ever get?
Yeah.
You're flying in the left seat of an H-34, and your dad is snoozing. That's
he's passed out.
Trust, baby.
Gone.
Yeah.
Can't trust your kid. I mean, who are you going to trust?
Exactly. Oh, that's awesome.
That's so. Well, I'll get there in a second, but I can't wait to hear about flight school
that'll be good. And let me just briefly touch on how it is that we got in touch with you.
Yeah,
it's a long way around. So another 53 driver, which is what you flew in the Marine Corps, another 53 driver reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a jarhead breakfast first Friday of every month. Come on by. And oh, by the way, you got to hear this guy, Gunny. He's amazing." And as our listeners know, if they've listened to the shows before this, Gunny is an amazing storyteller, incredible raconteur, Harvard lawyer. We won't hold that against him. And just a lot of fun to chat with, but flew H-34s in Vietnam. He tells the story of One Eye, whom we are hoping to have on shortly. And your dad was one of his squadron mates. Correct. And the rest, as they say, is history. So then, got to see that you were literally flying the H-34, a Marine Corps helicopter, a civilian variant, but in junior high school, in a high school.
Yeah.
That is cool stuff. Let's stay in that area and try and move linearly, I guess. Ooh, fancy word of the day, linearly. But you went to high school baseball practice in the helicopter. You went out to breakfast after the prom?
Yeah, a couple times.
Tell me that isn't a chick magnet. Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, want to go for a helo ride?
She just left. And I'll tell you one of the things I always used to do, and remind me of my Air Force One business card story. I got to tell you that one too.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was a baby of 8. I had 5 older brothers, 2 older sisters, huge family. My mom and my dad, believe it or not, actually met in Pensacola. My mother is a Pensacola native.
Ooh, one of them.
Yeah. So one of those girls. They moved, had a bunch of kids, moved on, Santa Ana. Dad was in the Marine Corps, did his thing, came back. They moved back to Iowa. Just grew up flying and fixing helicopters. I mean, Dad had a smart business model, and that was keep pumping out kids because that was, mechanic, lineman. Hey, you go get an A&P. It's almost like Yellowstone, how John Dutton was building his empire. My dad was doing the same thing. You rag the belly, you clean the blades, you got the glass, you drive the tractor, pull it out.
So does some of your siblings carry on the family business?
No, unfortunately. What was it? Once Dad got really old, we sold our helicopter in 2012 to a guy in Brewster, Washington that uses H-34s. Believe it or not, I hope you're both sitting down. He uses them for drying cherries.
Wow.
There's something about the H-34 rotor system and the amount of fuel that it does not burn in a hover that lightly blows the morning dew or the rain off of a cherry, because the cherry skin is very permeable. It'll split and fall, or the stem will rot and the cherry will fall. So these guys take these H-34s and they go out and they hover around these cherry farms in the morning and blow the water off. So we sold it to him back in 2012. And that was, I think 2013 was the last time my old man gripped on the cyclic of the H-34.
Okay.
Wow.
How about that? I learned something new.
That's
Who knew?
awesome.
Who knew? Well, the guy's got he's got one of the biggest populations of H-34s, I think, on the planet. He's got like 9 or 10 of these. And you can convert this aircraft to a T-bird, put 2 PT-6s up in the nose, much like you'd see Screaming Mimi or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, we used to go on jobs all summer long. What we call them as a lift job. And shoot, there was one job we went all the way down into Kansas. It took us a long time because we're in Southwest Iowa. And I had a baseball game that night, and I called the coach. I'm like, we're getting gassed right now, depending on the winds. There ain't no freaking way I'm making. There ain't no way I'm making it. So I was a catcher. We only had one other catcher, and he was a JV kid. And he was good, but he was scared shitless, never played a varsity game in his life. And luckily I had all my stuff with us. And we landed right at the friggin' ball field. I'm running to the field, throwing my gear on, getting dressed.
That's awesome.
And I think he caught like 5 or 6 balls, and then I just rolled right in. I didn't even warm up. I just rolled right in and started playing baseball. But Dad used to pick us up. Like, I'd take a note to school. He'd land on the practice field, come pick me and my cousin Mark up, and we'd go to a job in Des Moines or, wherever. Take some buddies along. It's like you want some free help. Just, promise your friends a good adrenaline rush, a nice fix.
Get a helicopter ride and come help us out.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay. And I touched on it and you looked around. So it's clear now.
Yep. We got a clear
chick magnet.
Oh my God. Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty sure as a matter of fact, the night I met my wife was at the University of Northern Iowa. We were there on a rugby party. So I hadn't joined the Marine Corps yet. I was getting ready to leave though. I had like 6 weeks.
Okay.
And, I was fairly intoxicated, probably well above average.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. And I saw her and was in love. And
of course. Yeah.
we got to started talking and I don't remember how I exactly came to it, but I always carried my dad's business card along. It was a slam dunk.
Right.
Yeah.
My dad's a pilot. So
nice. I am too.
It
It's
worked.
just not legal.
Yeah, it worked.
PLC program, Doober?
OCS.
Okay.
I graduated college. I think I had 10 days from the day I graduated college to when I had to be in Quantico.
All right. Sweet.
Yeah. Wow.
And now, with an air contract?
I did have an air contract. Yeah, I took ASVAB and did well on that and had an air contract. I just about didn't go because the OSO did not have orders from me, and my dad said, "You are not fucking leaving my house until you have a set of orders in hand."
For flight school.
For period. Even to report to OCS.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I just about didn't go.
Interesting.
So can I? I'm going to make an assumption. Go ahead, repeat. Go ahead.
I was just saying it's nice having somebody, in the family that knows how screwed up the military can be. If you don't have orders in hand, life could go badly.
I don't have anything to write down notes, but remind me about flight orders.
Okay.
Flight orders. All right, I got it.
All right.
Great story about Dad, I got to tell you.
All right. So I'm going to just assume you went to OCS and you had an air contract. You were planning on flying helicopters.
Absolutely. Didn't matter if I had the best NSS there was.
Yeah, that was my assumption.
First, second, and third was going to be helicopters. It was where my heart was taking me, no matter what.
Well, yeah, I don't know how you couldn't. You probably would have been disowned.
Yes.
If you didn't.
Yes. Accurate.
Hey, Dad, guess what? I'm going to fly Harriers. Get out. Get the hell out.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been tough.
Yeah, it would have been rough.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, that was pretty cool. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but your first fleet squadron was?
HMH 362, the Ugly Angels.
The Ugly Angels, with whom all our previous Marine helicopter guests have been.
Yeah, and it was my dad's squadron. So
Gunny?
It was really cool for me to get a chance to be in that squadron.
Well, okay. That is really unique right there.
Yeah.
And I know you grew up listening to all the stories from your dad's buddies when they'd come, pheasant hunting and stuff. So, wow. And then there you are in the squadron.
Yeah, you want to talk about blessed, fortunate. I mean, just the stars aligning and having an opportunity to do something that you can't even script. Honestly, it really just lucked out because, like you were saying, Fig, probably other than my father, the three greatest mentors that I had outside of the Marine Corps was One Eye, Gunny, and then Cookie, who was famous for that water buffalo story.
Yeah, right.
So
Cook.
I got to hear that firsthand as, a young kid, 10, 12 years old, listening to my dad and his buddies tell these stories.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just, I'm on the edge of my seat, just like, I want to hear more of this.
Right.
Please give me all that you can of this infectious disease that you guys have.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I bet, the human mind is weird. The worse it was, the funnier and the better it seemed to them in retrospect. Sure. It sucked while they were there.
Yeah. Well,
but they howled about it in retrospect.
Yeah, I mean, it's the very content of your podcast,
Yeah.
It really is.
It really is. All right. So a flight orders. Is this one of your dad's stories, or is this?
Yeah, this is one of Dad's stories. So if you want, like, I've got a shelf of some stories that I want to tell on Dad's experiences, but I don't know what path you want to go down.
So we can do that. Let's touch on that. Let's honor your dad a little bit here. What was his name? What was his call sign?
Yeah, Philip Larry Turner.
Tell us about him.
He passed away this last January, so about 5 months ago. He, what can I say? He's my hero.
I feel you, brother.
This guy, I never met your dad, but he seemed already like a larger than life character.
Yeah.
Right.
We quit counting flight hours at 20,000. I mean, he got to the point where it's like, I don't care.
Yeah, what's the difference?
I'm just going to fly.
Hold on, Fig. I've been flying 40 years. You're close to that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We're probably close to 20,000 between us, plus or minus 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah, between us. Yeah. Well, hold on a second. So some of us fly more than the others. So,
Well, that's true.
I probably, but yeah, 20. Yeah, that's crazy. 20,000 hours in a helicopter too. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was.
I'm between 11 and 12. So, yeah.
50 years of flying. We actually, thank God, we were able to induct him into the Iowa Aviation Hall of Fame 2 years ago while he was still alive.
Oh shit!
Which was really cool. And then my sister-in-law submitted my nomination, and I got inducted the year right after that, which was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Where is the Iowa Aviation Hall of Fame? Is it in Des Moines?
Small little town called Greenfield, Iowa, due west.
Due west of Des Moines?
Yeah, due west, about, I don't know, 45 minutes south of I-80.
Well, congratulations on you being included with your dad in the Iowa Aviation Hall of Fame. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, did he have a call sign? Because I know that was
they did
not coming
They
in
didn't
yet.
use a whole lot of call signs back then, but his was flubber, is what I'm being told. And I have no idea what it means. I've got a story of how I got my jacked up call sign, but let me know when you're ready for that one.
We'll come back to that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you worry. We'll come back.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah. So, flight orders.
Well, so if we're going to go down this path, I'll just tell some stories about Dad's Vietnam experiences that I had heard. And Gunny already hit on some of these, and I will tell you, his level of accuracy took me back to the point where those stories were first told to me. I was like, wow, word for word.
That's pretty great.
Word for word.
That's great.
I don't think the fish grew over the years, which if you know Marines, which we do, you know that happens. Yeah. So sometime Vietnam, 1965, 66, when Dad was there, they were, getting things kind of set up. And I think they were 24 plane squadrons, if I remember right, which is a lot of friggin' helicopters.
You bet it is.
And, that was a time where every crew chief, they owned their plane. Nobody touched it. If it was Yankee Lima 13, that was his aircraft. Nobody touched on it. Nobody worked on it. Nobody else flew on it without his say-so. So a bunch of the crew chiefs, I think, had come to my dad. They had kind of confided in him because he was a maintenance test pilot. And that relationship between a plane captain and a test pilot or a maintainer, it's unbelievable bond. And they were all concerned because none of their flight skins had been renewed, or their flight orders. They all expired.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what it's like nowadays or when we all served, but back then, my dad knew that if a guy's flight orders expired, their life insurance also expired, their SGLI.
Yeah.
So this is the cool part about this story. My dad got his commanding officer fired at the commanding officer's request because they're trying to figure out how do we fix this.
Right.
CO, Lieutenant Colonel Allworth, took it to the MAG CO and or the MAG admin shop, and they were like, yeah, whatever, we'll work on it. Coming around, nothing. Everybody's really getting nervous, because, planes are piling up. They're having accidents.
Right.
So the CO says to my dad, who submits the readiness report every day, down all the airplanes. I want you to report 0 of 24 available for flight combat operations. And my dad's like, I'm going to get my ass kicked if I submit this up to the MAG. Well, he did it. And the MAG CO comes down, if you can imagine, coming to the ready room, kicking doors down, and didn't even get Lieutenant Colonel Allworth an option to rebut, just fired him on the spot. He's like, what are you thinking? And he's like, sir, I had to get your attention. I do not have enough available crews to fly my planes because these men do not have flight orders, and I'm not going to order them to fly anymore. Well, guess what showed up the next day? Was a briefcase full of flight orders.
Get those typewriters out.
And then Lieutenant Colonel Allworth was subsequently hired back on again as the commanding officer. But my dad always said, I got my CO fired. So
that's a good story. Awesome. And he did.
And he liked it. He didn't even get an adverse fitness report for it.
I mean, that's just about doing what's right by your men,
Oh, shit, yeah. That's good leadership.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's get you into.
Wait a minute. Lieutenant Studley. Hold on. There's
hold on.
Is Lieutenant Studley?
Oh yeah.
Lieutenant Studley Hungwell.
Story.
Is that a dad story?
That's a dad story.
All right. Let's hear about Lieutenant Hungwell.
Yeah.
So, in a way, I think they probably had developed this rapport with the MAG where they were like, these guys are idiots. We're gonna fuck with them. So they decided to make up a pilot. And they made up a pilot by the name of Lieutenant Studley Hungwell. And the funny thing is, as they continued to create paperwork, put him on the flight schedule, he had a locker, he had a helmet, he had flight gear, he had a hooch, he had a place to sleep. Then all of a sudden somebody from the MAG shows up and they're all pissed off because Lieutenant Studley Hungwell had not cashed any of his paychecks. And he started to get paid somehow.
No.
So the funny thing is how they would fuck with the MAG admin shop. They'd come down to the squadron and they'd be like, where's Lieutenant Hungwell? And be like, you just walked past him. Did you not see him? You literally met him right at the door, sir. Or, he's on the schedule today, sir. He's out flying. Or, he's on, medevac standby. So he's not going to be back.
What blows my mind is that there are Marines who didn't pick up on the name.
I think, yes, but I think everybody in the squadron was in on this to the point where old birthday balls, he had a seat. I have a name placard of my dad's that has Lieutenant Studley Hungwell. He made it to one of the birthday balls not too long ago.
Unbelievable.
So
that is great.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. He had 5 or 6 air medals too. I think he graduated from University of Illinois, something like that.
I hope Lieutenant Hungwell made it out of Vietnam okay.
As far as I know, he did. Was living in Illinois again. Big family.
Oh, that's
good.
That's
I don't think I noticed his name on the wall. So.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, repeat. Get it going. Oh, wait.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I wanted to back up and get out of high school. You go to OCS. You show up down in Pensacola, and you've got roughly 4 times the number of flight hours of your flight instructors.
Well,
and most of your flight instructors, probably not all of them. There are probably a few relatively experienced guys.
Yeah,
but to have 1,000 hours in any airplane.
Well, I didn't have any fixed wing time.
So what was that like?
I didn't have any fixed wing time. I was very comfortable in the aircraft, but that was a whole new world to me, was flying fixed wing. So
Oh, flying the T-34.
Right. I was a
Yeah.
single guy. They were shipping most of the single guys from Pensacola down to Corpus just because it was cheaper than to marry
Yeah.
So I did a little stint at VT-27 there. My on-wing was a P3 guy. He was friggin' awesome. Loved the guy to death. And then went to Pensacola, did HT8, 8-ballers. And, I wanted to keep my mouth shut. I figured this is the smartest thing to do. Keep your mouth shut. Don't say a damn thing. Be humble and just, try to earn their respect. And then one day I just couldn't do it. We always did a clearing turn, right? We'd pick up in a hover when you're getting ready to do ops in the pattern. There's always 6-8 helicopters just doing racetrack work, and we would do a pedal turn, 180 degrees one way, 180 degrees the other way, and make sure that there's no traffic coming, or we could at least gauge how much time we had. The last thing you want to do is, transition to forward flight when another guy's coming into land or doing an auto rotation. Excuse me. And do that at a vulnerable time. So we pick up, do our pedal turn to the right. I know we got to do a pedal turn to the left. So we got to do pedal turn to the left, and then we come back around. And rather than doing just a nice stable pivot over the spot, I kind of decided to do a Millennium Falcon type sliding, turning, rolling move transition to forward flight, which is a shitload of fun.
Yeah.
And I do that, get up some airspeed, get through translational lift, and the instructor goes, "Man, that was really cool. Don't ever fucking do that again." And then we get up in the downwind, and he takes the controls from me. He's like, "All right, what's going on?
Yeah,
You've done this before."
Right.
So I came clean, and I had to unlearn some bad habits, really more than anything else, because Dad taught me how to fly the airplane to its limit, and then maybe just a touch past. But he taught me some things that are very difficult to teach, and I think that's how to become one with the machine. Listen to the machine when she don't want to do what you're trying to tell her to do, or when she's giving you that indications and warnings that, hey, I want to come apart.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of had a little bit of an unfair advantage, going through flight school.
That's
okay.
Boy, that's great advice, regardless of what you're flying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen to the jet. Listen to the plane. Wow.
Yeah.
So you obviously probably were a water walker, I'm guessing. Grades
I did okay. I did pretty decent.
But I'm assuming you knocked the socks off of everybody at the HTs.
I did okay. I did. I will say, when I graduated, there was no Hawaii slots because I really wanted an opportunity to go to Hawaii and be in Dad's squadron. But if you guys remember, if you graduate number 1, you get to go wherever you want. So I knew I had to graduate number 1, and thank God I did. So
he did okay.
So were they putting guys in the Osprey?
Not yet.
No. Okay.
So Osprey was still kind of in operational test and evaluation at that time, maybe just a touch after that. Because we're talking, I got my wings December 18th, 2003. So you're looking at, right at 100 years of aviation. Right there when Orville and Wilver took off.
Right.
That was actually on our winging shirt. Took 100 years to get it right. Well, guess what? Whoop, whoop.
There you go. Oh, man. So you finished number 1. You did manage to get out to Hawaii, and you got to the Ugly Angels. And then, let me back up because you mentioned
Rag's right there in Hawaii.
So
it was only 53 Ds. So we were at 301.
Okay. Nice. So, just going to talk about, I'm going to ask about an acronym here, but you mentioned one at the very beginning of the show, and that was an FCF, which is a functional check flight, which is something that's done on the helicopter after work has been done, or any airplane for that matter. But then I'm assuming I'm in the right time frame here. You're talking about the worst MEU.
31st.
Is that when you got
30
to Hawaii?
worst?
30 worst.
Yeah, 30 worst MEU. If you ever did an Okinawa,
that's Okinawa. Yeah. That's Okinawa. Sorry.
It's all good. Did 3 deployments in the 53D, Okinawa to 05, and then Iraq in 2007, and then Iraq into Afghanistan in 2009. So we actually hit both theaters, but we got an engine upgrade to the 53Ds, which allowed us to have another 2,000 pounds of lift, which is everything.
Oh, you bet. So, hey, when in 09 were you in Afghanistan?
Every one of my deployments lined up with like a March arrival to a November departure, October, November.
And where were you? Were you out at Camp Leatherneck, or where were you?
So we started out in Kandahar. We flew all the planes into there, or we C-17'd all the planes from Al Asad into Kandahar. And we had to put all new engines on the planes. We had 12 planes, so we had to put 24 engines on. We upgraded from the 413 to the 416, which it just let the engine burn hotter, had a hotter can, but we didn't have to do anything to the rotor system. So it was
okay. Let me back up just a little bit. So we're talking Muse, the Marine Expeditionary Unit. You C-17'd, meaning you brought the helicopters on the C-17, which is a massive military transport aircraft. And then when you say hotter cans, the can is the burner section of a turbine engine that allows it to burn hotter and thus create more torque.
And you really struggle at speaking English, don't you? You speak Marine so well. It's when you have to translate.
Don't get old. Yeah. Don't get old. It's bad for your memory.
I understand that. Yeah. CRS hits.
All right. Yeah. That's the thing that people ask about all the time. Acronyms. Cut it out. All right.
We could have a whole conversation in acronyms if we wanted.
Right. Without ever coming up for air.
So,
Kandahar. After Kandahar, where'd you park them?
Yeah, we built them all back up, and then we flew them out to Bastion, which wasn't Leatherneck yet.
Yes,
and then turned into Leatherneck. We flew by there every day, waiting for them to build us enough matting of the Marsden matting, so we could land the helicopters. It's the first time I can actually say I really roughed it in the Marine Corps, because we flew and self-deployed our shit from Kandahar to Bastion, unloaded our tents, built where we were going to sleep, eating whatever the hell we had, and sometimes just sleeping in the damn helicopter until they had living set up for us.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I was there. I mean, I went in and out of Camp Bastion a couple times in a C-130.
And a 130. Yeah, you may have given me a ride from Kandahar to Bastion once.
Maybe. Well, all right. So. Were you flying off the boat in Iraq?
No, we flew in we already did a transfer of authority. The helicopters were already there from a sister squadron.
Yeah.
So, and 2007 was actually the first time they had put V-22s in Iraq as well. One of our sister squadrons, who we called the Dyslexic and Ugly Angels, because we were 362, they were 263. Which I think is the Thunder Chickens, maybe.
That's funny.
Okay.
It was 263. Was that at New River?
Yeah, I think they were New River, because I seem to recall. I think our squadron did a what would they call it? An augmented squadron deployment with those guys,
probably.
and they joked about the chickens on the patch. Yeah.
They did whatever they could to make sure the V-22 was successful. I mean, every department head was a lieutenant colonel.
How about that?
So
that's heavy. That's a heavy squadron. Okay.
What could go wrong when you put a bunch of LCs in a squadron? Like when you need lieutenants and captains.
Do you have any good combat flying stories you want to tell, Doober?
You start scratching, and I'm sure they'll come up.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this first. Okay, how'd you get the call sign Doober?
So I first got to the squadron, first CO, Frenchie, and XO Junior. They're like, hey, Blue Angels are coming out. They ain't been here in 20 years. Here's the XO credit card. Here's the CO's credit card. I want you to go buy everything you can with an Ugly Angel patch on it. I'm talking hats, koozies, shirts, thongs, eye patches, friggin' dentures. I don't care. Buy them. Yeah. So I'm buying all this shit that I can get, because we're allowed to, by MCCS, go have a booth and sell our own stuff.
Right. Yeah, you're going to make money for the squadron fund.
Yeah,
right.
So the goal was to send everybody the birthday ball for free. So I'm buying all this stuff, and I had this one vendor. He's like, "Hey man, I got these new things. They're called Doobers." And I'm like, "What the fuck is a Doober?" So on the back of a hat, it's just a little neoprene thing. I wish I had probably got one downstairs somewhere. It's a little neoprene sleeve that goes back on the back of a plastic clasp of a hat. That plastic click.
Yeah.
It's so that the plastic doesn't dig into your head. Plus, they put emboss whatever on it. So they called these things Doobers. So I'm like, sweet, yeah, I'll buy a gross of them. So I'm thinking a gross is 144. No big deal. We got fucking 12,000 of these things showed up.
12,000 Doobers.
So
do they have a little squadron emblem on them, or how?
Oh yeah, little ugly angel patch, and HMH 362, the world's finest heavy lift helicopter squadron. So we didn't sell fucking.
Oh my god,
we didn't sell any of it. So the staff NCOs were like, Doober.
Doober. That's great. That's great.
But silver lining to that is we did send everybody to the birthday ball for free. We made a shitload of money.
Beautiful.
And then when we went to Kadena or to Okinawa in 2005, their friendship day where we invite everybody to come on, all the locals come on the base. They were buying them like crazy. They're like, "Oh, we can put our cigarettes in them, or we can put them on our fingers."
All right. Well, thank you for that. Okay.
Yeah. So everybody, if you'll indulge us for just a minute, we'll come back and chat with Doober about the combat stories. But we're going to also talk to you a little bit about the people who make this podcast possible. You can help us by helping them and supporting them. Go visit these folks. Here at So There I Was, we're partnering with another aviation podcast to cross-promote our programs to each other's audiences. This history podcast is all about a legendary and pioneer airline that almost single-handedly built commercial aviation as we know it today. The name of this program is called the Pan Am Podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Experience the legacy of the world's most iconic airline, Pan American World Airways. This award-winning program brings Pan Am's 64-year history to life through engaging storytelling and insightful interviews with Pan Am employees, passengers, historians, authors, fashionistas, and aviation enthusiasts. This program is hosted by historian Tom Betty, who serves on the board of the Pan Am Museum Foundation. Since launching the program in August of 2021, donating his time and talent, Tom has worked hard handling all aspects of production, from host to content creator, researcher, editor, and post-production. A wide variety of people and topics have been covered in the episodes aired from the romantic era of flying boats of the 1940s to the supersonic flights of the Concorde, from acts of heroism and humanitarian missions, from the evolution of cabin interiors and White House press charters to New York's landmark Pan Am building in Manhattan. In addition, the program covers difficult histories such as the 1970 hijackings and the dawn of global terrorism, the 1977 Tenerife airport disaster, the AIDS epidemic of the 1980s, the bombing of Flight 103 over Lockerbie in 1988, and Pan Am's diversity in flight during the civil rights era. The Pan Am Podcast is a humanities program and explores all aspects of Pan Am history and the time periods in which the airline flew, covering not only aviation history, but American, world, cultural, business, and military histories as well. The program has earned many awards, including the recent Gold 2023 Muse Creative Award and the Gold Award from the 2023 Here Now Palooza of the National Audio Theater Festivals. The Pan Am Podcast is brought to you by the Pan Am Museum in Garden City, New York, and is now approaching its third year. The program has published dozens of episodes that have been downloaded almost 100,000 times in over 150 countries. From the awards to the worldwide number of listeners, it is clear that interest in Pan Am and the stories of the people at the heart of the airline are alive and well. If you haven't listened to the program yet, all the episodes are available on the various podcast platforms, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon. Go give it a listen. I think you'll enjoy it. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, finding the time and energy to cook a delicious and nutritious home-cooked meal can be a challenge. Enter HelloFresh, a game changer in the culinary scene that I've had the pleasure of trying. My wife loves it because they do all the meal planning and the shopping for the correct ingredients and provide ready-to-prepare meals right to your door. Now, 2 nights a week, we eat a great home-cooked meal without the hassle of planning and preparing a menu and shopping for the exact ingredients. One of the first things that struck me about HelloFresh is the incredible variety of food choices available. The options span multiple cuisines, dietary preferences, and creativity levels, making every mealtime an exciting culinary adventure. Whether you're craving Italian pasta, Asian stir-fry, or a classic American burger, there's a good chance you'll find it on their menu. And with their commitment to high-quality ingredients, you can be confident that you're refueling your body with the best. When it comes to preparation, HelloFresh truly shines. Each meal kit arrives with pre-portioned ingredients, eliminating the need for measuring and reducing waste. This also means less time spent preparing and more time savoring the delicious results. Furthermore, each kit provides suggestions for adjusting the flavors to your taste, empowering you to personalize each dish. But what truly sets HelloFresh apart is the easy-to-follow recipe cards. Detailed yet simple instructions transform cooking into a stress-free, enjoyable process, accompanied by clear, step-by-step photos. These recipe cards make the cooking process almost foolproof. Yes, even I did it without a mistake. Regardless of your kitchen experience, these guides instill a sense of confidence that you're on the right track every step of the way. In essence, HelloFresh strikes a perfect balance between convenience and gourmet cooking. It brings the joy of preparing and consuming a wide range of delicious meals right into your kitchen with minimal fuss and maximum satisfaction. Whether you're a seasoned home cook looking for new inspirations or a busy professional wanting a quick yet wholesome meal, HelloFresh could be the fresh breath of culinary air you've been looking for. So what do you do now, you ask? Well, it's simple. To get the great deal, go to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas16 and use the code SoThereIWas16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. That's right. You heard right. 16 free meals by going to HelloFresh.com/SoThereIWas16 and use code SoThereIWas16 for 16 free meals and free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
I love HelloFresh. We had it last night, as a matter of fact. Okay, hey, Doober, I'm looking at your timeline here. Did you spend 5 years in the Ugly Angels?
Almost 6.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's the only place where they have 53Ds. And once the twin engine 53, the light twin, or the straight-tailed pimp, as we used to call it, she was a beast. If you had a group of guys that knew how to maintain that aircraft, because it was simple, it was a left and a right, you could really make that old girl sing.
Wow, so that's kind of unheard of, getting 5 years in a fleet squadron.
It was great.
That's pretty awesome.
It was awesome. I loved that place to death.
So we left off with some combat stories. You got a couple,
Yeah, I mean, you guys always ask everybody, what's your worst day and your best day.
Right.
Clearly, I never ejected from an aircraft, because if you did that from a helicopter, that would be catastrophic.
That'd be
Thinly sliced ham, please.
Yes. I'll start with my worst, and I know you guys know this well because you've briefed it 1,000 times. You've probably experienced it, but incapacitating vertigo.
Oh yeah.
If you remember right, there's 3 kinds. There's recognized, there's unrecognized, and there's incapacitating. And that was me. 2007, up in the northern border of Iraq, a little base called Al-Qaim, which was already a dark hole. So you're talking low light night, on the goggles, no visible horizon from stars or moon, no ambient light. If there was any light, it made it 1,000 times worse because it would bloom out your goggles.
Yes.
I'm Dash 2 on a milk run. Basically, what helicopters are for, because 53 is nothing sexy. It's just a big damn semi-truck. It's just beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. We just move stuff.
Yep.
Stuff and people. So I'm Dash 2 behind, got to be careful here, a less than stellar aircraft commander. And he has a junior co-pilot with him. I'm an aircraft commander, but I am the co-pilot on this. My hack is the maintenance officer. Great guy, phenomenal pilot. So to make vertigo even worse, he got it too.
Oh yeah.
So we're in a crew aircraft. We've got pilot, co-pilot, crew chief in the right window on a gun, a AO aerial observer in the left window on a gun, and a tail gunner. So we've got crew of 5.
Okay.
We talk to the ADAG, get our which is the I don't remember what that's. It's the guys who bring us our cargo.
Yeah.
We switch off their frequency, switch to our interflight, and somehow in there the radios got messed up. He takes off. We don't get any notifications. We're like, oh shit, okay, let's button up, boys, let's go.
Hey, hold on, Doober.
Go ahead.
I know what you mean by radios got messed up. What?
We got off frequency. We
you
were
guys
one
got on a
digit
different-
off. Yeah, we
Right,
were one
okay.
digit off freak. So
Right, thanks.
we think we're talking to them and they're not responding. When you land, you typically shut off some of you have your lights on, your position lights on. And as soon as you get airborne, you don't want those on, so you shut them off.
Yeah.
So we take off late. So there's step 1, how we're behind the ball. We're trying to catch up to dash 1. So our closure rate is very difficult to see because you can't hardly pick up visual cues, even though there's the infrared strips on the side of the plane, so you can kind of try to get your attitude, make sure you're, beanie ring on the horizon. You can just the pitot static through the top. There's little checkpoints that you look for.
Right.
Impossible to see. So we can't talk to them. We're running behind. We almost overrun them because we can't judge our closure rate. And then I started getting vertigo, something bad. And I'm trying to read my gyro, look at the horizon and kind of cage my inner ear, and it ain't working.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to my aircraft commander, Droopy. I'm like, hey, sir, I'm freaking hurting over here. He's like, you're doing all right? So he starts reading off performance instruments to me. Next thing I know, he's like, what are you doing, man? You were doing fine. He's like, you're straight and level. He's like, look at your head. My head was stuck up against the side of the cabin, the window, and I think I'm straight and level.
Oh, wow.
And I'm looking outside at the airplane, at the other airplane.
Yeah.
So then I look to the gyro and I realize that I'm off. So what do you think happened to my head? I start tumbling.
Yeah, as soon as you righted your head, you caused more fluid.
Yep.
Fluid in the inner ear starts moving around. Yeah.
Totally messed up. What's jacked up is every time I talk about this, I start getting uneasy. I start sweating. Right now I'm sweating. It's like I don't have PTSD from getting shot at or anything, but
you get
PTSD
PTSD
like this,
from vertigo.
Holy crap! So I hand the controls over to my much more experienced aircraft commander or maintenance officer. Basically one of the gods of the squadron. He's doing all right. I'm trying to unfuck myself. And then next thing I know, he starts complaining. He's like, hey, I ain't doing so good. And I'm like, so now I'm just even worse.
Oh, no.
So here's the kicker, right? Here's something you guys have never experienced. And I'm going to rub it in because I get to enjoy the crew concept.
Yeah.
Our crew chief saved our life that night because she hopped up on the jump seat and she started reading performance instruments. She was reading off altitude, airspeed, and VSI.
Wow,
that's incredible that she knew to do that, let alone
she was a pretty senior sergeant.
Yeah.
She was an ass kicker, and she saved our bacon. And we kind of broke up from the lead aircraft, backed off a little bit, for some safety. We finally got up the same frequency with them, so we got a win. We started getting the airplane flying straight and level. We got another win, and then in the distance, we start seeing the lights of Al Assad. So we get a visual horizon.
Nice.
And we're like,
right,
longest 20-minute flight of my life.
Yeah. Oh, I'll say. Oh, that's terrifying. Oh,
yeah. Oh, dude, I've had it. It's horrible. Yeah. All right, best day.
Yeah.
Best day. I had so many of them. It's hard to really capture, but I've got one in particular, and that was flying with my dad. When I was in high school, a very rich lawyer, that's as far as I'm going to go with that because I don't want to incriminate him. He bought an H-34.
Okay, Rusty, you can turn it off here.
We bought an H-34. It wasn't Rusty, actually, but Rusty knows who it is.
Okay.
We went out to Arizona to the boneyard. There was a guy who used to work for Sikorsky, and he used to he would rebuild H-34s from the ground up. And he rebuilt one. He wasn't a pilot, though. He was a mechanic. And this lawyer paid Dad to go down there with him. He's like, hey, I'll go, but I got to take my son with me, because I was kind of my dad's plane captain, if you will.
Yeah.
We spent a week down there going through this plane, testing it, setting the tensiometer on throttle cables, doing auto rotations, testing RPMs, doing everything. Dad and I got to fly that thing all the way from Arizona to Texas to Cookie's house, the water buffalo guy.
Yeah.
He came and picked us up. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. It was so much fun because, we got chased by a storm in Las Cruces, New Mexico. We landed, and then we got the living shit kicked out of us. And the tail rotor blades the paint was still so new on them that the rain ripped the new paint off.
Oh my gosh.
So we landed, we had to take tail rotor blades off, send them back to get repainted. And then, we landed, and this guy had this hangar. Dad and I were sitting there in friggin' Houston Hobby Airport, and we're taking the main rotor blades off, and we're folding them down the back because it'll fold. All the blades will fold back. But you had to do it manually. You had to get up there with a pin puller and pull the top taper pin off of the knuckles, because the rotor blades were attached with knuckles that went together like this, and then a tapered pin went all the way through.
Okay.
So that was my best day. It was also the day that I knew my dad had balls this big enough to bring in a dump truck, because he wasn't scared. He just wasn't scared of anything. He was always so calm, cool, and collected, even in the face of chaos. Because the H-34, you sit really high, and if you're down in the cabin, you can see the calves and the feet of the pilots and the tail rotor pedals.
Yeah.
And we're flying along, just fat, dumb, and happy. And I look down and I see what I think is fuel everywhere in the cabin, just sloshing around. Come to find out what it was, we had a 5-gallon jug of water that had fallen out of the seat, and the lid had broken off. But I'm freaking out. I'm like, Dad, we're leaking fuel everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm freaking. And he looks down. He's just like, helicopter's still flying. Go check it out. So I'm like, what the? We're flying.
Right.
We're flying, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the H-34, the airframe is actually made of magnesium, so it's essentially a flying flash bulb.
Right. We learned that in some of the stories from some of the other Vietnam guys that flew.
Yeah. If it caught on fire in flight, you better get it to the ground right now, or you may not have anything to land.
Or you're going to get it to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I flipped up the seat, go down there. It's just water, But I thought it was fuel. I was losing my friggin' mind.
That is, thank you. That I was there with you for a second. You were HMX-1.
I did,
pilot.
yeah. So here's the greatest thing.
So wait a minute. What is HMX-1, Fig?
Well, let's let Doober tell us.
Yeah.
Right.
Doober, what's HMX-1?
Presidential Helicopter Squadron.
Oh, he's got the shirt on. Yeah, HMX-1 is the squadron of Marine. It's a Marine squadron that flies all the white top helicopters.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of my college roommates, who was a year behind me in the PLC program, ended up, he was a CH-53 guy too. He ended up flying an HMX-1 during the Clinton years.
Nice. Yeah, that was there from 2009 to 13 for Biden Obama's first term, and then into the re-election. And I don't know what your guys' experience was, but I had some of the best. Like, I never had a bad commanding officer. Every commanding officer I had was frigging awesome, phenomenal. I still stay in
We were
touch.
mostly good.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. But
we had 2 out of 3. It was good.
That's not so bad. 66.6.
All right. Oh,
But
man. So your HMX-1 CO was a good guy.
The guys who basically got me there, because HMX-1, some of the pilots who we had in the squadron, that maintenance officer that helped save my bacon, he was an HMX-1 alum. So a lot of alumni around the 53D community in Hawaii, but then also a lot of the guys who were just senior to me, the captains and majors, they ended up leaving Hawaii and going to HMX. I'm like, this is what I got to do. This is where my boys are. These are where my mentors are.
Yeah.
So it kind of made it easy for me to find a soft landing place there. Although the background check is like a colonic on steroids.
Yeah.
They went back. I had a cable bill that I missed in flight school. I just about didn't get into HMX1 because of that cable bill.
Yeah, I got a funny story. I'm going to tell it very quickly. So my friend that flew in HMX1 put me down as a reference.
Oh boy,
needed somebody that knew him for 20 years or something, and we grew up together. We played baseball. Anyway, I'm in Kingsville, Texas, as an instructor, and I'm in between flights, and there's a guy standing in a suit and says, "Are you me?" And I'm looking at my name tag. I'm, yes. Is there someplace we can talk? I'm like, sure. Go into a briefing room, and then right away, when he says, "So, how long have you known?" I was like, okay, So he starts asking me all the standard questions. In
I
about
know
10
him,
minutes,
by the way. I know him.
Okay, we'll talk offline.
Okay.
So we go, I know where he's going with everything, and I got another brief. So I go, hey, listen, I think I can save us both a lot of time here. And he stops right and he looks up. By the way, this guy has no sense of humor.
Yeah.
I said, listen, in college, after he kicked the cocaine gambling habit, he's been a straight arrow ever since. And he looks up at me, and then he goes right back to his pad, and he says, so, and get like I never said a word. He just kept asking questions. So a couple of days later, I call old Belser, and I say, hey, I got an interview. They go, oh, really? What'd you tell him? And I told him that. And he goes, you got to be shitting me. You really said that? And I go, yeah. He goes, no, you didn't. You really said that? And I go, yeah, I did. He got hired anyway.
Yeah, they got him anyway. Yeah, they interviewed my high school football coach. They interviewed one of my elementary teachers.
Wow.
They get in there pretty deep, and honestly, that's one of the biggest disqualifiers is some kind of financial issues or any remote possibility that you could not be 100% committed to the mission and the duty, of being in the Marine Corps or being with HMX.
Yeah. If you're compromisable in any way, you're out.
They'll know. They will find it.
Yep. So that was was that 3-year tour for you?
4-year tour.
Is that normal? Is that normally a 4-year tour?
Yeah. So
so you're telling me it's like high school. You go freshman through senior, so to speak.
Yeah, that's kind of how we, the slang way of saying it. And so I wanted to say one other thing about HMX. Some people think this is a good thing. Same thing is a bad thing. And I don't know if it still happens or not, but HMX was legitimately a good old boy club. And what I mean by that is we had all the people that were applying, we put their names in a binder and we put it in the ready room. And everyone has an opportunity to go in there and say, this guy's a turd. This guy friggin' sleeps, with one eye open, puts lipstick on and loads his 30-06 at night. All those little things. He's got a lipstick list.
Once he kicked his cocaine habit, he was fine.
Yeah, gambling. She let him take a line off a hooker's ass. He was good to go.
Right.
Yeah. Had to get right. You got to get right.
That's right.
Before you can go.
The reason they wouldn't let you in if you were like that is they didn't want you competing with the politicians for.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, we got to keep all this below for us.
That's right. All right.
But
enough politics.
It's kind of a good old boys club, which was kind of cool.
Well, tell me this about HMX1. Was you mentioned one story pre-show, but I cannot imagine the license to steal that you must have had. I mean, just short of stuff you were doing unlicensed in Iowa as a high schooler, the kind of flying you got to do, it had to be no holds barred because you're flying the president, you're flying the vice president. You take all priority over everything, even people that are dying.
It's a no-fail mission, right? And what people don't realize about HMX1 is they think that it's all the pretty stuff, the pretty helicopter wearing a uniform and all that. That's a very, very small part of the mission. The larger mission is all about presidential protection. If you think what's the quickest and safest way to get somebody out of Dodge in a bad day, it's a helicopter. And then you get them to a jet. You can put a helicopter anywhere, but, motorcades, incredibly predictable, vulnerable. Think of all the people that you that you mess up their days by blocking roads, and you you don't know when he's going to come. You don't know when he's going to leave. So guess what? Secret Service and local police, they're going to block that road all damn day for a 5-minute motorcade.
Right.
But it was a ton of fun. I mean, I got to be there with the leaders and mentors that helped groom me along the way. Got to have the most fun I've ever had with my clothes on. And I got to fly, up to Camp David, fly past the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio, which was friggin' awesome. I was within 200 feet of it, flew right by it, face to face.
That's so cool.
Flew in Ireland a couple times, in the greenest places I've ever seen. I've been to almost every state. I actually flew. So when you were talking about the 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, your freshman year, you're just learning. You're essentially worthless to the program, but you're learning it. And a lot of times it's kind of the holding area. You're waiting for your clearance to show up.
Okay.
And they will not let you start until your clearance is adjudicated.
So,
then,
so why can I guess that while you're there, if there's support missions or something to fly around Quantico, you do those?
Oh yeah, you run over and you friggin' wear the lieutenants out over there.
Yeah.
Which was awesome because that was one of our secondary missions. We go over there and do support for them, and we had in the 53 because I threw 53 Echoes there, the triple engine bent tail.
Yeah.
Okay.
We used to mess with the lieutenants over there and tell them, if you want to talk to the pilot, go up there and grab that little funnel with the hose on it and just, yell into it and tell them where you want them to go. Give them the LZ brief. You guys are laughing because you actually know what that little tube is.
Well, that's a relief tube.
That is the relief tube.
Yes. That's great.
An overzealous lieutenant will just speak smartly right into that and give you a stellar LZ brief.
It never gets old, does it?
Never gets old. So I did that for 4 years, and the last. So your third year, you can either become a White House aircraft commander or work your way into becoming a Marine One pilot. And when you say a Marine One pilot, there's only typically 4 or 5 guys that can actually sign for the aircraft with the president on board. And it's usually the CO, XO, a couple other chosen few. I didn't go that path. I went down the path of a White House liaison officer, what's called a WELO. And we did advanced stuff. So let's say the president's going to go to Chicago. I'd go a week early. I'd set up hotel, rental car, airport, hangar, liaison with the local police, with the Secret Service, with the Air Force One guys, with air traffic control, find the LZs, the whole 9 yards. And then when everybody would show up, we'd already have the brief built for them. We'd tell them where they're going to go. And then we would be one of the guys that looked like a Secret Service agent. We'd be in a suit and tie, basically acting as ground clearance guy or ground taxi in the zone for when the boss would come in.
Okay. What about, let's see, I got a couple notes here.
That's awesome.
Biden, let's see.
Biden
Tower closure at Reagan?
Yeah. So probably 2010, 2011. I'm doing a vice presidential lift. I'm going to go pick up Vice President Biden, Dr. Joe Biden, take them from the Naval Observatory, which is the vice president's residence,
right.
Which is up the hill from George Washington, or the school, up the hill from the zoo, northwest of the White House. Pinnacle landing, 150-foot trees all the way around it. And when I say it's not a pinnacle landing, confined area landing. Just it's a bowl. You had to land.
It's kind of by it's just north of the Potomac, right? Kind of sits real close to the Potomac.
Yeah, maybe about an eighth of a mile, quarter mile.
Okay.
You can't see the zone until you're pretty much eighth of a mile out from it, because of the way the trees are. You got to have enough step up, otherwise the ellipse of the trees completely covers it.
Yeah.
So the night before the lift, Reagan International Tower, the tower controller falls asleep, and there's planes trying to land. Nobody's answering, trying to raise them. Well, these planes end up having to divert over to Dulles.
Yeah,
made national news. Big shitstorm. So I'm doing. I don't think anything of it. Land at the vice president's residents, land, shut down the engines, put on the rotor brake. And typically, there's enough room in between the pilot and co-pilot. And the aircraft commander would always sit in the right seat. And depending on if it was POTUS or VPOTUS, they'd always stick their head up in the cockpit. May not shake your hand, but they may say, "Hey guys, how are you doing? Thanks. Thanks for coming to pick me up." Biden wastes no time, no greeting, no formal greeting of the day. Sticks his head up in there and says, "They answering the radio today?" And I said, "Yes, sir, they are." He's like, "Well, fuck it, we're gonna go anyway, okay?" Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, sir. Let us know when you're strapped in. We'll take off directly.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh boy.
True story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Story.
That's awesome.
We were always.
Did you?
Too.
And you may not be able to talk about this. Did you have to get clearance, or did you just announce yourselves coming when you were coming off of a plane like that?
Well, we
you
would
just get everyone and announce yourselves. I mean, it was probably pre-filed, so you weren't totally surprising the controllers. But
we did make radio calls. If you've ever watched like the Discovery Channel show that talks about Marine One, the aircraft actually is assigned that call sign when the principal is on board. And what I mean by the principal is the dignitary or the VPOTUS or POTUS. So otherwise we use a call sign of Nighthawk.
Okay. But you come up, you just show up because obviously you don't know when you're going to go. The president may be delayed. The vice president may be delayed. So you just get airborne and go, Marine One, we're going this way.
Absolutely. And you have a
start clearing people.
You got a discrete squawk too for your transponder, 4-digit code that's assigned to that mission.
Right.
So they know exactly where you are, what you're doing. And park police are out there typically too, flying security, and we'll always have a backup aircraft that's around.
Sure.
Well, I'm sure that was very professionally satisfying.
It was awesome
tour, right?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Got to do some cool stuff, and you're flying with the best of your buds, so to speak, right? Mentors and so on. And that's awesome.
And we went through some pretty difficult things at times where you're really pushing the limits of the aircraft. I remember one trip in particular, if you remember when the BP oil rigs blew in the Gulf. I was one of the few CH-53 pilots, even though I had been to the squadron maybe 2 months, that answered his phone at 5 o'clock in the morning. Because we all got issued BlackBerries, and I answered my phone, and they're like, "Doober, you're at the bottom of the list, but you answered. Be to the squadron in an hour. We need a co-pilot."
Son of a...
Dude, feed window. Nope, this isn't me.
Yeah, nope, yeah. So got there, briefed while we're walking to the plane. 260s, 353s. We're heading to NAS New Orleans, and we're bustering down there because the POTUS wanted to go see the oil rig that blew. And I'll tell you, we pushed it as hard as humanly possible to the point of almost running out of gas because we were stupid. And then flying the next day, POTUS came down, and we always make a weather call, right? And the Marine One pilot, he has the onus to make that weather call, and we made a good weather call, and we shouldn't have. The weather was so awful that day. We almost converged 353s at the approach end of NAS New Orleans, one coming off a PAR, one coming off special VFR. And if you remember, if you're on a PAR, you're coming in visually, you're on two different frequencies.
Yeah.
And we
you're
come to
talking to approach, they're talking to tower.
We come to the numbers, and whoop, did one of those. Had no business flying that day. No business.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know if that's a title because we were stupid or we had no business flying that day.
So there I was.
Both good potentials. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
This is great stuff. Indeed. Thank you. Thank you for your service to this country. A lot of sacrifice.
How many years did you do in the Marine Corps? How many?
20 years, 2 months, 28 days.
Who's counting the 28
But he wasn't
days?
counting. Yeah.
2 months, 28 days longer than I wanted to.
Yeah.
I loved every minute. It was good.
Well, your story is really awesome. And you have such a it's kind of a legacy, and you got the fact that you got to fly in your dad's old squadron, and you grew up listening to all the stories, and then you went and lived it. basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Right.
awesome, dude.
Who gets to do
that's
that?
Really awesome.
That is a once in a lifetime, once in a generation type of thing. Geez,
Are
not
there
even that. No one gets to do that.
Any
I think he was going
Doober
to say.
any Doober offspring have aviation in their future?
I don't know. I just had my first kid. He just graduated from high school. He's a computer guy. I got a 15 and a 13-year-old. They maybe. I don't know. I grew up with it. I was immersed in it, so it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't something I had sought out. So if I'm going to introduce it to these kids, I gotta search it out. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was like, I'm okay with not flying again. I'd love to continue to fly. I'm envious of you two that you still get to cheat death. But I'm also kind of okay putting that on a shelf.
Yeah.
And just leaving it there and preserving it. So I don't know.
No, I hear you. No, it's a privilege. We've had a blessed life and getting to do the things that we love to do. But what's more amazing is that we're getting to do this, and we're getting to talk to all these incredible people like you, like Gunny, like Captain Williams, who shot down MiGs and then didn't tell anyone about it.
None of these. I mean, it never gets old. I am just amazed by how many awesome. Everybody's got stories. We just got to get them out there, man.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. You got to take the time to peel that onion back, and I'll give you guys some sincere kudos from the bottom of my heart. What really turned me on to this podcast is how dedicated you two are at capturing the authentic side of Marines and what we go through and what we experience. And, it's healing because not everybody had a great experience,
right?
But it is healing to talk about these things.
We hear that a lot. And really I totally get it. And I have experienced it personally myself. It's therapeutic to talk about it.
Yeah. I don't care how many free HelloFresh cardboard boxes are in the garage. I don't care. You guys are doing a good job.
Oh, if you only knew. Oh,
Ching.
Yeah.
No, it's the opposite of that. But hey, I'm doing it for free. We're finally breaking even with paying the bills, and that's fine. I don't care. It was never for the money. We're not doing this for the money.
Hell no. No, I know that.
Repeat makes more money than God. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I tell everyone.
He plays for the majors. I don't know if you know that or not. He plays for the majors.
Yeah. But I've got a daughter at Riddle, so.
Oh Lord! Let me know where I can send the check because clearly, yeah. You
That's what I always say to people. If you've got $250,000 I can borrow, and by borrow I mean have and not give back, you just let me know.
All right. All right.
Fresh out.
So,
we're all out of diesel. Better try the next station.
Right on. So, all right. Well, unfortunately, it's time to land this plane, as it were. So let us say to you indeed, Doober, thank you for your service. God bless you. Thank you to your dad. He's gone now, but may God bless him and may you rest in peace. And he did a great service for this country, and he sacrificed a lot to be there, and we appreciate that service as well.
Yeah,
and we're sorry for your loss.
His stories will live on forever.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need to thank Dave Hamilton over at the Mac Geek Gab, the Gig Gab, and the Business Brain podcast. He's given us all the technical knowledge that we need to make this show happen every week.
Thanks, Dave.
And then, Fig, if we use too many acronyms, what should someone do if they don't get the acronym?
We have an acumen, and a glossary for all the acronyms on our website. And if there's an acronym, there's an acronym that we flung at you today, and we didn't catch the fact that we don't already have it. Please tell us, and we'll get it up there.
Shoot us an email. What's your email, Fig?
Let's see. My email is fig@sothereiwas.us, and yours is
repeat@sothereiwas.us. And then if you're watching on the video at all, you see Fig and I are wearing our cool hats. I'm wearing my cool polo shirt.
I'm envious.
We've got the merch store. You can get koozies, a bikini, beach towels, rugs, clocks, T-shirts, you name it.
You can't get a Doober.
Get a Doober. We need
Fix
some
We got to
Doobers,
see if we
man.
got to see if we can get a Doober up there.
Hey,
You
look
know,
that
I
up.
don't know if you can or not. Do you have any of those 12,000 left? We could reprint. We'll go with that. So
Keep your cigarettes dry.
yeah,
We needed Doobers. We needed
And if
so
you
there
could-
I was Doobers.
right. And thank you to our patrons, our pilots over at sotherewas.us/Patreon. We appreciate that. You gents are helping to keep these engines running and bring these great stories to you every week. If you go to this sotherewas.us/Patreon and pledge $5 a month, that's about $1.25 a show. We'd appreciate that support. It costs a little bit to get the editing software and the domain and all that stuff. It ain't free. We're happy to do it. We love it. Like Fig said, we aren't doing it for the money. We're certainly doing it for the love of it, and we hope you love it as much as we do. Thank you to our sponsors. This week was the Pan Am podcast. They're mentioning our show. We're mentioning theirs. Some amazing stuff over on that show. I managed to grab one show and listen to it already. It was a lot of fun to listen to. A lot of neat history in that airline. And for
HelloFresh.
HelloFresh, thank you. I just went blank. And for our sponsor, HelloFresh, so there I was at HelloFresh.com. So there was 16. 50? 50. I'm going to have to edit that out. HelloFresh.com/so there I was 50. Use the code so there I was 50 for 50% off your first box.
Boom.
Don't get old. It's bad for your memory. And I don't know, Fig. I'm just kind of wondering, is there anything that comes to mind? Are you feeling it? Are you hearing it?
You know, I think we need to say thank you to the pilots that flew the F-16s with great music that made the Air Force sound good. It's the Dos Gringos,
Right.
who, by the way, were outstanding interview. A lot of fun, a lot of energy there, and they let us use their music. It's awesome. It's awesome music. They got 4 albums out there. Anywhere you get your music, I bet you can find it. Dos
Amazon,
Gringos.
Spotify. Yeah, the Dos Gringos. Go get them. Fig, any advice for our friends until next week?
Well, so we're not going to sit on the collective. So we're going to say don't let go of the collective, right? Don't
There
drop
you
the
go.
collective. Don't
squeeze.
Don't
Pull and
squeeze.
squeeze. Pull and
Turn and
squeeze.
squeeze. Pull and squeeze.
Yeah.
Pull and squeeze the collective, folks.
Pull and squeeze the collective. Oh, there you
and by
go.
all-
Now
and
that's
by-
good advice. Can't beat that.
And check 6 as always.
Be well, everybody.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way.
Not at all.
When you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
What do you say, Fig?
He said it's over.
It's over.
It has to end here.